After the holidays, my wife had her assistant preside over the annual kickoff meeting. During the assembly, David handed out holiday bonus envelopes to every employee, but deliberately left me out. Just as I was about to step forward and confront him, he publicly mocked and ridiculed me. "Leo Hayes, you've been freeloading here at the company for years. How do you still have the nerve to stand here begging for handouts?" I gave him a slight smile, tore off my employee ID on the spot, and called my wife. "I heard Sterling Group wants to fire me. Is that true?" At that moment, everyone's attention was on me. It took several tries for the call to connect. Then Sarah Sterling's impatient voice came through the phone. "Leo Hayes, what kind of crazy stunt are you pulling now? This meeting is very important for the company today, can't you wait until I get back?" I glanced at David out of the corner of my eye and stated resolutely, "No." The next second, Sarah Sterling, on the other end of the phone, started yelling at me. "Yes. It's true, I told David to fire you. Happy now?" I was stunned for a moment, then spoke again. "Give me a reason." Sarah Sterling scoffed, speaking coldly. "A reason? Do I, the dignified CEO of Sterling Group, need a reason to fire someone? You've held the position of sales manager for 3 full years without a single bit of performance. How can you still shamelessly ask me why?" By the end, even though I had turned my phone volume down as low as it would go, Sarah Sterling's voice still echoed through the entire hall. "Leo Hayes, listen up. My Sterling Group doesn't keep deadbeats." After saying those last words, she hung up the phone immediately. The scene immediately fell silent. Did everyone hear that? Even CEO Sterling said Leo Hayes is a deadbeat. Why would we keep someone like that in the company? David stood on the stage, looking at me smugly. "I suggest you pack up your things, go home, and call it a day." Mid-sentence, he Denley smiled at me. "If you're a kept man, you should act like one. Don't you think I'm right, Mr. Hayes?" I looked at him expressionlessly and let out a cold laugh. By Assistant David's tone, it sounds like I'm redundant in this company? David's face split into a wide grin, seeing me deliberately walking into trouble. "And why wouldn't you be? All you do at work is play on your phone or games, you're completely clueless about the business. If it weren't for your connection with CEO Sterling, you would have been fired ages ago. Keeping a deadbeat like you in the company is simply a waste of resources." I held up my index finger and gently shook it. No. I think everything Assistant David said before is right, but there's one thing I don't agree with." David looked somewhat surprised, seeing me so confident. "What don't you agree with? You don't think Sterling Group can't function without you, do you?" I gave him a slight smile, then nodded firmly. "You're right. If I leave the company, Sterling Group will collapse instantly." As soon as the words left my mouth, the hall, which had been silent for a long time, exploded into chatter. "Oh my God, this guy is so full of himself. Sterling Group is a Fortune 500 company. How could it possibly collapse because of a tiny manager like him? Exactly. He's just relying on being the chairman's husband, loafing around all day, doing no work, and still getting paid for 3 years. He's disgusting. How can someone like this exist in the world? Kept man, freeloader, just drop dead." The insults around me grew louder and louder, but I didn't care at all. Because everything I said was the truth. Sterling Group's leap from a small company with just a few people 3 years ago to a listed group with tens of thousands of employees today was entirely due to me, or rather, the influence behind me. It had absolutely nothing to do with the CEO they kept mentioning. Back then, the founder of Sterling Group, George Sterling, traveled from Riverwood to New York just to ask me to marry his granddaughter. And he had a marriage agreement in his hand. It did indeed have my grandfather's signature on it. I was young back then and didn't understand what love was, only thinking that since Grandpa arranged it this way, there must be a reason. But I never expected that after single-handedly supporting Sterling Group to its current position, I would be called a deadbeat in the end. Thinking of this, my fury surged. Immediately, I decided to go confront George Sterling in person and clarify if the Sterling family planned to betray our agreement. If he continued to let Sarah Sterling remain CEO, I wouldn't mind letting the Sterling family return to how they were 3 years ago. Wait. Just as I turned to leave, David's voice called out. "Hey, Hayes, are you just going to walk away like that?" I slowly turned back and looked at the stage. "What? Is Assistant David planning to invite me to stay for dinner?" David stared at me with a malicious grin for a long time before speaking. "Before you go, you have to leave the company's belongings behind." I narrowed my eyes, meeting his gaze. "I already gave you my employee ID. What else is there?" David scoffed, then raised the microphone in his hand. "Take off your company uniform." As soon as the words fell, the entire hall erupted again. Most employees looked at me gleefully, and only a few who were closer to me cast sympathetic glances. It's truly kicking someone when they're down. When I was still the manager, they all called me Brother Hayes, but now that I'm fired, not a single person stood up to speak for me. Is this the quality of employees at a listed company? In my opinion, 3 years was too fast for the company to grow like this for the Sterling family. David saw that I wasn't speaking, his tone becoming impatient. Hey, Hayes, I'm talking to you. Are you pretending not to hear me? I smiled, looking at him calmly. And if I don't take it off? You're the first person who's dared to threaten me face to face in my life. I wonder who gave you the courage. David raised an eyebrow, his eyes full of contempt, as if he didn't take me seriously at all. Kid, even your wife doesn't want you anymore. What right do you have to act tough in front of me? Hearing his words, I couldn't help but burst out laughing. Who told you I needed to rely on Sarah Sterling? As soon as I finished speaking, several employees who were friendly with David next to me started bombarding me with insults. Oh, look who's talking here. Turns out it's CEO Sterling's pet dog. Exactly. You'd think you were someone important, but you're just a kept man, a freeloader. If CEO Sterling heard that, you'd probably have to kneel on the floor all night when you get home. They kept talking and laughing, looking quite excited. I silently memorized their names. If I'm not mistaken, you guys are in league with David, right? As an excellent businessman, keen insight is a basic skill. From the beginning of the meeting, these people had been exchanging glances with David. The holiday bonus envelopes they received were the largest, their pockets almost overflowing. The company had previously explicitly stipulated that the annual holiday bonus envelopes were the same amount for everyone, regardless of rank or position. But these few people were different from the other employees. It looked like David had pulled some strings behind the scenes. Poor Sarah Sterling naively handed such important work over to him. Even I, the real boss behind the scenes, couldn't stand this sight. Brat, what nonsense are you spouting? We have nothing to do with Assistant David. Exactly. We just couldn't stand you wasting company resources, so we spoke up. What right does a freeloading kept man like you have to question us? I tried my best to stay calm, glaring at them fiercely. I admit I am indeed better looking and younger than you guys, but... Mid-sentence, I suddenly raised my voice, my gaze turning sharp. I personally really dislike the term kept man. I hope you won't use it again in the future. Otherwise, I'll get angry, and the consequences will be severe. The aura that suddenly erupted from me scared these lackeys stiff, leaving them speechless for a long time. David's face immediately changed when he saw someone bullying his subordinates. Brat, I guess I was giving you too much credit, huh? How dare you, a mere unemployed bum fired by the company, stand here lecturing my employees to my face? I'm telling you, today I'm not only going to fire you, I'm going to make that son of a bitch pay. After hearing David's words, I almost couldn't help but laugh out loud. It seems the business world in Riverwood is indeed much more interesting than in New York. At least you get to see a clown show. Assistant David, can your words represent the company? I looked at him calmly, my heart racing with excitement. As soon as I spoke, David waved his hand dismissively. Of course. Kid, let me make it clear to you, CEO Sterling is going to divorce you soon. She never liked you from the start. I grinned, giving a slight smile, without the slightest hint of panic on my face. Oh, is that so? Did Sarah Sterling tell you that? David subconsciously nodded, his eyes full of contempt. Of course. You don't think a dignified listed company CEO would like a loser like you, do you? If it weren't for the old chairman, you would have been kicked out ages ago. It seems my guess was right. The Sterling family thinks they've grown wings and want to fly solo now. But they've picked the wrong target. The trick of discarding someone after they've served their purpose won't work on me at all. Since I could make the Sterling family the head of the Riverwood 4 leading families in such a short time, I can naturally also pull them down from the pedestal and leave them with nothing. For me, it's just a matter of a phone call. But now I have suddenly changed my mind. This cat and mouse game is only interesting if you play it to the fullest. After all, the main player hasn't even shown up yet. How could it end so quickly? David didn't know what I was planning at the moment. Seeing me standing still, he thought I was backing down and became even more arrogant. Hey, Hayes, everyone's waiting. Are you going to take it off or not? If you don't do it yourself, I'll find someone to do it for you. Saying that, he raised the microphone and shouted towards the door. Security guards, get your asses in here. Following David's shout, a dozen security guards wearing Sterling Group badges instantly swarmed into the hall. Under David's direction, these security guards quickly rushed towards me, surrounding me. At the same time, David had already come down from the stage. However, he was timid and only dared to stand behind the security guards, about 2 meters away from me. Assistant David, are you planning to use force against me? Don't forget, I'm not divorced yet. Aren't you afraid CEO Sterling will blame you later? As soon as I finished speaking, David burst into laughter. I knew you'd use CEO Sterling as a shield. Luckily, I was prepared. Saying that, he pulled out his phone in front of everyone and called Sarah Sterling. After the call connected, he handed the phone over with a sinister smile. CEO Sterling has something to say to you. Sarah Sterling's voice quickly came through the phone. Leo Hayes, I want a divorce. I spoke expressionlessly. By your tone, CEO Sterling must have already found a replacement, right? I could feel Sarah Sterling's excitement even through the screen. How much do you want? Name your price. As long as you agree to divorce me, you can ask for whatever you want. She didn't answer my question directly, and I wasn't in a hurry. After all, you have to boil a frog slowly. You don't need to give me money. I believe the Sterling family will be ruined before long. Saying that, I suddenly changed my tone, making it colder. Right now, I just want to know one thing: who dared to interfere and try to steal my woman? Sarah Sterling felt my anger and immediately scoffed. His name is not something you're worthy of knowing. But I can tell you, this person is from New York, a height you can never hope to reach. After hearing Sarah Sterling's words, I almost laughed out loud. How could I not know someone from my city? I was just curious who this person could be. Daring to steal my woman? He must have a death wish. Before I could speak, David snatched the phone back. All right. Even if CEO Sterling tells you who it is, what can you do? I advise you to just take off your clothes obediently. That way, you can at least get a severance payment. For someone like you who lives off others, what's not to like about such a deal? Facing David's repeated provocations, I didn't confront him directly but endured it repeatedly. It wasn't because I was afraid of him, but because I hadn't figured out who was behind him yet. Now that the truth had surfaced, I naturally didn't need to humor him anymore. Enough. I scanned the surroundings with my eyes. I don't think this meeting can continue today. Now I'm giving you all two choices. Those who are smart leave quickly. The rest, I will consider my enemies. And for enemies, I never go easy. As soon as I finished speaking, the surrounding employees burst into laughter. Did you all hear that? This man is telling us to make a choice. It's hilarious. Leo Hayes, do you still think you're the manager? Everyone heard that phone call just now. Even CEO Sterling abandoned you. What right do you have to talk big here? I suppressed the anger in my heart and spoke slowly. I wonder if you've all heard the saying, there's always a bigger fish. When I, Leo Hayes, do things, I never rely on women. I looked at the laughing faces before me with disappointment. Wah! Is this the so-called workplace? Usually, when they called me the dependent son-in-law or a kept man, I just treated it as a joke. But I didn't expect that simply because Sarah Sterling wanted to divorce me, everyone was gloating. Was this the consequence of my being too low-key? Because of my special identity, I had been hiding all these years, rarely showing my face in public. Even if I occasionally heard company employees discussing me behind my back, I just smiled it off. But I didn't expect that my usual laid-back attitude would become the capital for these people's arrogance. David saw that I was taking too long, and his face immediately fell. Hayes, I'll count to 3. If you don't take it off, I'll have them use force. I stood with my hands in my pockets, glancing at him sideways. All right. I've played along long enough. It's time to show you what I can do. David was instantly enraged by my words, rolling up his sleeves and charging towards me. Just then, the conference room door suddenly opened. Everyone, including David, turned their heads in unison. A young man about my age strode in confidently. Mr. Hayes, I heard you were asking about me? In North Air, why are you here? As David exclaimed in surprise, everyone turned their heads, welcoming this mysterious person. By the sound of it, you must be the one from New York? The young man raised an eyebrow slightly and walked towards me slowly. You're right. I am interested in your wife. The Sterling family needs the support of the North family to expand into New York. In exchange, she's quite willing to be my woman. Is there a problem with that? This person's attitude was extremely arrogant. He didn't even look at me when he spoke. So the North Heir is here today to force me to divorce? Ethan North nodded, looking at me with feigned sympathy. Mr. Hayes, as far as I know, you've been married to your wife for 3 years and haven't even held hands, right? Well, that makes it all the easier for me, ha ha ha. By the end, Ethan North was laughing recklessly. Hearing his words, instead of getting angry, I waved my hand at him. Since the North heir is so fond of other people's wives, I'll gladly let you have her. Saying that, I suddenly chuckled. I just wonder, under the very nose of power, when did such a creature appear? As soon as I finished speaking, Ethan North's face instantly darkened, his voice starting to tremble. Hayes, you dare to insult me? Do you know what New York means? Do you know what the North family of New York means? If you provoke me today, believe it or not, your whole family will pay the price. I looked up at him and let out a soft laugh. The North family of New York is nothing special. They're not as impressive as you make them out to be. However, your last sentence did give me an idea. Indeed, if you provoke me, your entire North family will have to pay the price. As soon as the words left my mouth, I directly punched him in the face. This young master from New York was used to being pampered and privileged. He didn't even have time to react and was knocked to the ground by my punch. Everyone present saw this scene, their jaws dropping. Holy crap, this guy is too bold. He even dares to hit someone from New York? Doesn't he want to live? Exactly. If I were him, I would have just quietly gotten a divorce. Why resort to violence? Daring to hurt someone from the North family, not even Jesus could save him today. As the surrounding discussions grew louder, David was the first to react. He scurried over to Ethan North, helped him up, then turned around and looked at me with a triumphant expression. Hayes, you're finished. The North heir won't let you off the hook. I waved my hand dismissively. Assistant David, you've got it backward. The question now isn't whether he'll let me off, but whether I can let his North family off. As soon as I finished speaking, Ethan North immediately sobered up. He rubbed his chin, then raised his head, staring at me with bloodshot eyes. Brat, you dared to hit me. Today, I'm going to take your life. Saying that, he fiercely pushed David. Get him. Kill this guy today. As soon as the words fell, David immediately rolled up his sleeves and charged towards me. Stop right there. Just as he was less than a meter away from me, an urgent voice came from outside the door. Everyone turned their heads curiously. An elderly man walked slowly into the conference room, leaning on his cane. George Sterling? Why is the old man here, too? Seeing the scene before him, George Sterling instantly understood what was happening. He ran breathlessly to me and bowed deeply. Mr. Hayes, I'm truly sorry, I'm late. Luckily, I was quick enough to help him up, or else I'd be accused of disrespecting the elderly. Grandpa George, you don't have to be so polite. I have nothing to do with the Sterling family anymore. George Sterling wanted to say something else, but seeing my firm gaze, he directed his anger entirely at his assistant. With a loud slap, 5 red finger marks immediately appeared on David's face. Idiot! Do you know what you've done? David was stunned by the slap, looking at Grandpa George with confusion. Old man, why are you hitting me? This is the young master from the North family in New York. What's wrong with me helping him? You've got a lot of problems, I thought, secretly amused. Helping an outsider deal with an employee of your own company? That alone is enough to get fired 100 times over. George Sterling had just managed to calm his breathing, but David's actions made him tremble with anger again. You still have the nerve to ask me why? I don't care where he's from. Anyone who disrespects Mr. Hayes deserves to be hit. David, I'm warning you, if Mr. Hayes is injured even slightly today, I will hold you accountable. George Sterling's words were powerful and resounding, but David's mind was in a mess. He couldn't understand how I, a mere dependent son-in-law of the Sterling family, could be compared to a young master from New York. Grandpa George, you must be getting senile. Are you sure you'd rather offend the North heir than protect this deadbeat? The North heir represents the North family of New York. If you offend him, how will Sterling Group survive in the future? The surrounding employees also nodded in agreement after hearing David's words. But George Sterling didn't think so. Perhaps to outsiders, he seemed to have one foot in the grave and couldn't understand the current situation. But only I knew that he was doing this solely to protect the Sterling family, making a final effort. I found an excellent spot to observe and sat down, leaving the stage temporarily to the founder of Sterling Group. George Sterling's performance didn't disappoint me either. At his age, he disregarded his image and pointed at David's nose, yelling at him. David, by my authority as founder, I order you to apologize to Mr. Hayes immediately, or you won't have a job here anymore. After saying that, he threw away his cane, straightened his back, and stood in front of me. Today, anyone who dares to touch Mr. Hayes will have to step over my dead body. George Sterling's words were like the last straw breaking David's resolve. On one side was the North family from New York, and on the other was the founder of Sterling Group. He couldn't afford to offend either side. Just as he was agonizing over what to do, Sarah Sterling appeared. She carried a briefcase and rushed into the hall, looking like she had just finished a meeting. Seeing me, Sarah Sterling became furious. Leo Hayes, you dared to lay a hand on the North Heir. Get over there and apologize right now. I slowly raised my head and met her gaze. Miss Sterling, I think the one who should be apologizing is you. After hearing my words, a trace of surprise flashed in Sarah Sterling's eyes, but it quickly disappeared. Lou. Oh Hayes, don't blame me, blame yourself for being useless. The Sterling family is now the head of the 4 leading families in Riverwood. To take the next step, we must enter New York. Choosing the North family in New York is naturally the best choice right now. I looked up at her, speaking coldly. So you were lying to me from the very beginning, right? I rarely interfered with the company's business, but this time, Sarah Sterling's actions made me very angry. She wanted to divorce me for an outsider. You're right. The reason I married you before was only because Grandpa forced me. Now that he's getting old, I naturally have my ideas. I looked at her coldly and spoke slowly. Sarah Sterling, you are committing adultery, do you know that? I kept staring at Sarah Sterling as I spoke, but she didn't dare to make eye contact with me at all. Before she could speak, Ethan North stood up behind her. What's all this talk about adultery? You're saying so much, don't you just want money? Name your price, I've got plenty of money. I looked at this arrogant young rich man from New York as if he were a clown. North Heir, don't say I didn't warn you. Even if you're from New York, you'll have to pay for your actions today. As soon as I finished speaking, Sarah Sterling instantly became unhappy. Hayes, stop trying to scare people here. You're just a dog the Sterling family raised. After being married to you for so long, you haven't done a single useful thing, just loafing around the company all day, not striving for progress. Let me tell you the truth, if it weren't for Grandpa, I would have wanted to divorce you ages ago. How am I not doing anything useful? Didn't the Sterling family rise thanks to me? I guess George Sterling was probably afraid of exposing my identity back then and didn't tell the truth to his granddaughter. I don't blame him for this point, after all, it's always safer to be low-key when you're from the capital. Sarah Sterling's words instantly made everyone burst into laughter. Did everyone hear that? Besides being slightly better looking, a kept man like him is completely useless. Exactly. The North Heir is from New York, much higher class than this deadbeat. If our CEO marries the North Heir, the company can expand its business to New York. The people around me kept flattering Ethan North, but not a single person stood up to speak for me. It seemed that in their eyes, it was all about profit in exchange, morality and values simply didn't matter. With employees like this, the company is probably not far from collapsing. Sarah Sterling, you want a divorce? I can grant you that. But I have one condition. Sarah Sterling looked at me disdainfully. Go ahead, what do you want? Money or a house? I can give you anything. I smiled and shook my head. I just want to tell you, don't come crying and begging me to come back after we're divorced. Sarah Sterling thought I was still desperately struggling, her tone becoming even more contemptuous. All right, fine. Whoever regrets it is a dog. Seeing her smug expression, the last bit of goodwill I had towards the Sterling family vanished. Sarah Sterling, I think you've misunderstood me. I never intended to ask you to come back. I just want to tell you that the entire Sterling family will be destroyed because of you. And this Ethan North from New York will also suffer. I had originally intended to spare the Sterling family out of respect for our grandfather's arrangement, but some people simply didn't appreciate it. For example, Sarah Sterling is standing in front of me. Pa! Leo Hayes, take a good look at yourself. What do you have to compare with the North Heir? Ethan North could crush you with a single finger. Sarah Sterling wanted to continue speaking, but I quickly waved my hand. Enough! I won't say any more nonsense. Let's do as you said. Divorce. George Sterling was furious seeing this scene, but no matter how he tried to pursue her, Sarah Sterling wouldn't listen to him, even having people restraining him. I've had the divorce papers prepared. All you need to do is sign. Looking at the stack of documents on the table further confirmed my earlier suspicions. From the moment David fired me, to the appearance of the North Heir from New York, and finally, Sarah Sterling publicly forcing me to divorce. Everything that happened today was planned by her. For someone like this, I naturally wouldn't show any mercy. I didn't hesitate and signed my name directly, then handed it back. Sarah Sterling's eyes flashed with displeasure, seeing how readily I complied. Leo Hayes, what are you smiling about? I looked up at her, my voice devoid of any emotion. What? Can I be as happy as you are? The Sterling family is nothing special. For me, it's just a matter of a single word. I advise you to sign quickly, too, lest your Ethan North abandons you later. Sarah Sterling's face turned red with anger at my words. I'll sign. As if anyone wants you. Sarah Sterling glared at me fiercely, then signed her name on the divorce agreement. With that, my 3-year marriage finally came to an end. I don't know why, but when I saw her sign her name, I didn't feel a trace of sadness. Instead, I felt much lighter all over. After signing the divorce agreement, Sarah Sterling glared at me fiercely. The papers are done. You can disappear from my sight now. Miss Sterling, don't be in such a hurry. I gave a cold laugh, my voice completely without feeling. Since I have nothing to do with the Sterling family now, it's time to settle today's score. As soon as I finished speaking, Ethan North, who hadn't spoken for a long time, stepped forward. Kid, did I hear that right? You just said you want to settle the score with me? Hayes, do you know who I am? Sarah Sterling's face immediately lit up with excitement, seeing the North heir personally stepping up for her. Seeing this scene, I couldn't help but laugh. Oh. UT loud. The North family of New York, huh? You're as foolish as this woman. You should check if you're qualified before you start bragging. Before Ethan North could even speak, Sarah Sterling impatiently jumped in. Leo Hayes, open your eyes and take a good look. The North heir is from the North family, one of the 4 leading families in New York. What the hell are you? Sarah Sterling became more and more agitated, her spit almost hitting my face. I slowly stood up and calmly took out my phone. Hello, tell the North family that their dog bit me. After hanging up the phone, I looked at the clock on the wall and started counting silently. Before I could even count to 10, Ethan North's phone in his pocket rang. He stared at me in shock for a long time, then tremblingly answered the phone. Hello, Dad, it's Ethan. The next second, a roaring voice from the other end of the phone echoed through the entire hall. You little brat. You're always causing trouble outside. Do you think you've grown wings? Ethan North laughed awkwardly. Dad, can't you talk nicely? There are people all around. Give me some face. As soon as he finished speaking, the person on the other side became even more agitated, even sounding like they wanted to jump out of the phone. Don't you dare call me Dad. I don't have a son as ignorant and arrogant as you. I'm telling you one last time, if you still want to return to the North family, apologize to Mr. Hayes immediately. Otherwise, I'm cutting you off right now. Ethan North had never seen his father so angry. He was so scared he wet his pants on the spot. The moment he hung up the phone, he came up to me, trembling, bowing 90 degrees. Mr. Hayes, I was wrong. I'll leave now. I held my nose and frowned. Get lost quickly. Don't appear in front of me again. Riverwood doesn't welcome you. As soon as I finished speaking, Ethan North scurried away with his tail between his legs, quickly fleeing the scene. From the phone call to Ethan and North leaving, the entire process took less than 10 minutes. Everyone stared at me blankly. What the hell is going on? How does Leo Hayes know someone from New York? Yeah, he hasn't left Riverwood since he joined the company. Could he be a hidden big shot? Don't scare me. If that's true, then our Sterling group is finished, isn't it? I ignored the surrounding whispers and slowly walked towards Sarah Sterling, looking at her with a half smile. Miss Sterling, now it's your turn. Sarah Sterling stared at me, dumbfounded. Leo Hayes, who exactly are you? Before I could speak, the elderly George Sterling, ignoring his physical condition, hurried over. Chanchian, shut up right now. Haven't you caused enough trouble already? George Sterling finally lost his temper. Do you still not understand why I married you off to Mr. Hayes back then? If it were anyone else today, I wouldn't say a word, but you just had to offend Mr. Hayes. Without Mr. Hayes, could Sterling Group have achieved what it has today? George Sterling's words were forceful and resonant, and the entire hall fell silent. No wonder the Sterling family could expand their business throughout Riverwood. It was inseparable from George Sterling's decisive actions. That marriage agreement back then was the best explanation. Sarah Sterling was completely stunned after hearing her father's words. Just as everyone was still in shock about my identity, Sarah Sterling knelt before me, tears streaming down her face. Everyone at the annual meeting, their eyes on me, had changed drastically from before, filled with astonishment. Even the arrogant David was now hiding in a corner, trembling. I looked down at her and sighed softly. You should thank your grandfather for saving you. Otherwise, you wouldn't even be able to kneel here and talk to me. Hearing my words, Sarah Sterling's face was covered in tears of regret. Husband, I know I was wrong. I acted impulsively before. Can we start over? I promise I'll listen to everything you say from now on and never think about anyone else. By the end, Sarah Sterling's voice was choked with sobs. Sterling Group can't be ruined in my hands. I curled my lips into a cold smile. Sarah Sterling, I used to think you were just a little willful, but I never expected you to dare to cheat. If I hadn't sensed something was wrong this time, you and Ethan North might have already had a child. The Sterling family had better keep a low profile from now on, or I don't mind making you go bankrupt again. My last sentence was also directed at George Sterling. While making my stance clear, I was also giving face to the old man who had dominated the business world for many years. After all, his relationship with my grandfather was extraordinary, or I wouldn't have agreed to the marriage. The grandfather and granddaughter exchanged glances, then both lowered their heads in unison. After Ethan North was taken back to New York, David naturally lost his backing and was left to my mercy. But I didn't even spare him a glance and turned to leave. George Sterling tried to persuade me to stay, but I refused outright. I have no interest in a woman who has cheated. As for what happens to the Sterling family from now on, it's no longer my concern. I have fulfilled my grandfather's promise and given the Sterling family some face. On the flight back to New York, I received a text message from Sarah Sterling. The content was very simple, just a short sentence. Leo Hayes, I'm sorry. After reading it, I immediately deleted and blocked her. From now on, she and I are strangers, each going our separate ways.